Hey everybody, welcome to another musing with me. So today we're going to talk about lessons learned. Very apt, I think, at the moment, because the question is, if we don't learn from the lessons that we experience in life, what's the point? Now, the reason for asking this is we're just coming out of lockdown in the UK, and the question I want to pose for you is, if you knew that lockdown was coming in 3 months' time, what would you do differently? Now, I know that a number of us have been hugely impacted by life under lockdown. There's been furlough, there's been disruption to business, we've had to work from home, we've had to look after our families, we've had to homeschool, all this sort of thing. Now, have you sat back and taken stock of what you would do differently next time round? What are the lessons that you've learned? It's all far too easy to sit back and say, yeah. It's fine. If it happened again, I'd deal with it differently. How? What is it that you've learned from this? Have you sat back and reflected around how you reacted to the situation? When things are happening in real time, it's easy just to get caught up in the moment and do what you need to do and then consign it to history and go, okay, I'm done. But we don't really grow in that scenario. Think of the fixed versus growth mindset. Fixed, can't change anything. It's just the way I am. A bit like being fearful over how you change. The growth mindset is, I wonder what I can do to improve. I wonder how I can get better. We all have the ability to change. Much like how habits are created over the course of 21 days, the growth mindset allows us to learn and grow and develop as a person. So, mentally, we've all struggled, I think, in certain aspects and at certain times over the course of the last, probably coming up to 10 weeks. Mental health has become incredibly important, along with physical health. We're far more adept at understanding and knowing that it's important. So how do we create that resilience? How do we prepare? How do we make sure that as we go through life, we don't keep making the same mistakes over and over and over again? Creating good habits is hugely important. But how do you know what a good habit is if you don't take the time to sit back, take stock, and reflect on the situations that we've had? Now, I know that we go through life and sometimes we have good experiences and bad experiences, and the bad ones we're much more likely to cast aside and say, I'm not interested. But when was the last time you actually sat back and reflected on that situation? We do it in projects and we do it at work all the time. We write a lessons learned document. We put a great deal of effort into it. We talk to all of our colleagues. We write the document, we file it away, we never look at it again. That's nonsense. Because those lessons that are captured in that document are there for a reason. We are exactly the same when it comes to our life lessons and how it affects us as people. Now, let's go back to the original question. If lockdown was about to happen in 3 months' time, what would you do differently? Would you do anything differently? Would you carry on as you are? Would you think about your revenue streams? Would you think about your mental states? Would you start working on mindset? Would you put any plans in place as to help you deal with these scenarios? Would you keep doing as you are? Now, I'm not afraid to say that there have been certain parts of lockdown that I've actually really enjoyed. Taking the pressure off having to do anything and being able to focus a little bit on yourself, for me, has been hugely rewarding. As an introvert, that's how I recoup and I re-energize. And I'm very aware that my other half is an extrovert and is really missing that social interaction. So what is it that we've learned about ourselves over the last 8, 9, 10 weeks that we would put in place as we go forward? You might sit here and think, Brendan, what on earth are you going on about? I'm not interested. I just want to get out of lockdown and go back to the way that life is. Newsflash, life's never going back to how it is. The pessimist in me believes that in 12 months' time we'll go back to exactly how it was and we'll have forgotten the life lessons that we've learned from this. But the optimist says, we will. We will change for good. The fact that humanity comes together from a clap for carers perspective, we've had incredible acts of kindness. We've had Captain Tom Moore raise nearly 30 million quid, all because we've learned the lessons across the world and coming together for each other. So what am I going to take away from from the whole situation. And if I had 3 months to prepare for COVID again, I would make sure that mentally I'm building up to it. Mentally I'm ready so that when day one on lockdown happens, working behind a camera 12 hours a day on Zoom is not a shock. But I would also make sure that when I'm not on camera, I decompress. I do what I do to help me unwind. No longer can I walk to work or walk to the gym, work out, and mentally get ready for the day, because that's gone. So I've had to create new routines. So the question is, what will you do differently? Will you speak to people more often? Will you tell more people that you love them? Will you create an environment at home that allows you to work and to deal with the other demands on life? Would you do anything differently? The question is up to you, but I think it's massively important that as we go through an immense amount of change, we take stock and we listen to the lessons, or we take stock and we learn about the lessons that we've been through. The chances are that we're going to be going in and out of social distancing and potentially lockdown over the next 24 months. But it would be naive to go through the same scenario and make the same mistakes again and again. So I'm here to tell you, don't make the same mistakes, but don't go into it naively either. Think about it, reflect on your time, reflect on how you've handled these things. If it's a mental health thing, what are you going to do differently? If it's a physical health thing, what are you going to do differently? Either way, take this moment to look at yourself, reflect, and make sure that you take stock of those lessons. With that, I will speak to you soon.